Hello, welcome back to my channel. Hi, happy February, the month of a lot of things. We have the month of love, we have Black History Month, and so we're going to be diving into some of those things this month. Some having both, some having one or the other. So yeah, stay tuned for that goodness. I started this month with the ending of Silver Flames, which is a romance novel, so we're okay. We good right now. But I did want to hop into some contemporary romances to give my fantasy soul a break because most fantasies are series and I'm very much becoming short-winded of them. And so I wanted something that would be easy, something that maybe only had like one or two books in the series that are shorter books. And so, yeah, here we are. If you looked at my story on Friday, February 1st, I believe, I ended up going to Barnes & Noble's with a friend of mine. I picked up 3 books that were in the romance genre, and I have finished within a literal day one of the books. I thought I had a little bit more self-control, but there was a point at 1 a.m. in the morning where I was just like, if we're going to do this, we're going to do this. And I was not disappointed, but I am disappointed. I wasn't disappointed in the book, but I was disappointed in my self-control, quite frankly. And so what I want to clarify with this, because I didn't necessarily clarify when I started in January, is what does it mean for my books to be a 5, 4, 3, 2, and whatever's. So I want to make it very clear. If I rate a book a 5, it means that at some point I know I'm going to flip through some pages and reread aspects, if not read the whole book again, just because of the nostalgia and the feelings that I got when I read the book. 4 is I probably will not read the book again, maybe, but it's not a definite, and I enjoyed it. 3 is, not going to touch it again. It was great for what it was. But yeah, and then 2 and 1 is like definitely more of the negative things, just like it wasn't for me, or it was a little bit confusing at times, or it's just not my type of book to read. So there you go. We're gonna still stick with the spice barometer here, and yeah, so let's get to it. The book I started my journey on in February, the month of love, is not a book that is a POC book, but I found this book through a YouTuber. I forget her name. It was a Black YouTuber, and she picked it up at an airport, and it was on her 2024 TBR list. And when she was reading the synopsis, I was very much intrigued. I felt like it was a good book to start my February journey because it had a little bit of elements of the unknown. You'll see what I mean when I read you the synopsis. So the book that I chose and finished within a day is the 7-Year Slip Up. So I am going to read the synopsis and then I'll share my journeys trying to get this book. So let's see. Same place, different time. Sometimes the worst day of your life happens and you have to figure out how to live after it. For Clementine West, that means burying her head in her work as a book publicist, being practical and forgetting the silly things her beloved Analia taught her, her aunt Analia taught her, like living wide and chasing the moon. Clementine would rather just stay grounded and keep her heart safe. For the last 6 months, she'd done just that. But when she moved into her late aunt's apartment and finds a strange man standing in the kitchen, a man with kind eyes, a southern drawl, and a taste for lemon pies, her well-laid plans begin to fall apart. Because he's the type of man who, before it all, she would have fallen head over heels for, and she still might. Except he exists in the past. 7 years in the past to be exact, and she quite literally lives 7 years in the future. Her aunt always said the apartment was a pinch of time, a place where moments blended like watercolors. She also said that love is never a matter of time, but a matter of timing. And Clementine fears she may be 7 years too late. And I was just like, yes, this book I have to try, mainly because of the magical element. Fantasy girl here. So I feel like this is a good segue into February, and it did not disappoint. This book was so many things. And the first thing I'll say is this book is definitely about, I'll just say, the aunt ends up offing herself at the beginning of the book mostly. So if you have that is a major trigger warning for this book. So if you are sensitive to people offing themselves, then this would not be the book for you. But the book is about love, of course, but I noticed it's very much about grief, and it's something that the author I read the acknowledgments for, and she has a loved one, Ashley Poston, has a family member who gone through offing themselves, and this is kind of like her attempt to really portray how grief feels in regards to having someone who has passed. And I very much ended up relating to this on a life level, as someone who has lost multiple people in their lives at a very young age, like 12 and 13. And still to this day, I very much understand the main character. I highly relate to the main character in regards to not knowing fully what to do with their lives. Shoot, I'm still doing that now as a 20-something year old. But I found myself admiring Clementine for the strides and the choices I wish I could make in my own life, that I could still possibly make in my own life. Because as long as I'm alive, I can always still make those decisions. I also admire Clementine's push to really find love. I do want to clarify here, in the beginning of the book, she did not want to find love. In fact, she was extremely guarded. But once she met James and realized what she could have, that's when she started fighting for it more. And that's what I meant by that. I think that even with me, that's something that I struggle with because I do like to play safe. And for her, she just went for it. I think that this book it was a great book. I feel like there's so many lessons. I feel like reading this the first time, I really couldn't fully grasp everything just because there was so much depth there. And the first time I read this, I was mainly focusing on the love plot of things, but definitely with a book like this, I would definitely want to read again to really hone in on Clementine's grief journey. And I'm definitely gonna have to do that one time. I am very, 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 very excited to say that this is definitely a 5-star for me. I would definitely read this again. I can see myself reading this forever. This book is so easy. It's so it's relatable. I'll just say this. Ewan, not sure how to pronounce his name, but James is a dream. He's a dream. And I love it. And I love him, and I love him for her. And yeah, that's pretty much it on that. But in regards to spice level, I would say that this is maybe like a 1.5 to 2 spicy pepper, I think. There is some spice in here. However, the spice that is there is not really explicit. Like, it doesn't go into full detail about things. It actually is fairly a quick experience. there's like one where it just kind of summed it up to they explored their bodies, and it's like great. That's all I need to. So if you're looking for something that's spicy, this is not going to be the book, but it has something for you. It's just not as compared to say the Sarah J. Maas Court of Thorns and Roses. It's not going to be as explicit as that. It's just not. I would say it's a lot more tamer than even Frost and Starlight. So if you know that book, you would know. There you go. Yeah, no, I just love it. I just want to talk about the cover because the cover is so beautiful. This is actually one of my favorite colors, which is actually their favorite colors, Clementine and James's. So there you go. But I will say, oh, I forgot to share how this book was all. So when I first went to Barnes & Noble's, I was looking for this book and I couldn't find it. And so I went to the Barnes & Noble's lady and she was like, oh, I just saw that book. I was actually looking at it because I thought it was a very interesting read because she wanted to read it too. But she put it down somewhere and then it just disappeared. And so probably someone just took it. And so they looked at their store. And I'm so thankful for them because they had to get like 3 people to help because it was like, it said on the database that there was like 20 copies for the store and it was like nowhere to be found. And they found it in a random box in the back. And so she was just like, here you go, we found it. And I was like, oh my God, this is the book I wanted to read like so badly. So yeah. The next book I will be reading, I'm going to keep that a little surprise because I do need to get started on my writing as I am in the time of editing. And so I also have to finish another book that I have started before I started this book, but I wasn't in the mood to read it, but I have someone else waiting for me to finish that book so they can read it. So I really want to get that done. But that is all I have today. Thank you for stopping by for this review. It was supposed to be short, and look now, it's like 12 minutes long or something. So I hope you enjoy it. I'll see you next time. If you want to see my live reaction for this book, it is on my Instagram highlight story reel. In the beginning, I kind of do a little bit of like spoiler going into detail, but at one point I did decide like, okay, I was right. However, this ending is going crazy and I do want to leave some of it very, very, I wanted to give you something to look forward to when you read it. So I didn't want to spoil everything. So I just left it at that. I actually need to update it now and tell everyone that I finished. I didn't get to do that. So I will see you later and thank you for stopping by. Bye.